I'm Ashley Zahorian. I am a professor and a filmmaker, and I'm going to be releasing some videos analyzing The Wizard of Oz and Wicked. Now, the series isn't just film history or movie reviews. We're going to be exploring technical innovation, business strategy, production ethics, cultural legacy, and how Christians can engage secular culture thoughtfully. Because I'm also a Christian, a wife, a mother, and a child at heart myself, and that all shapes how I analyze film. So I'm not just going to give you a simple thumbs up or thumbs down. And really, the series reflects my own processing about what we watch, the craft, the business, the human cost, and the meaning. I hope it can help you process as well. So whether you are a film student, a parent unsure about how to approach Wicked, or someone who just wants intelligent analysis, welcome. This week, we will focus on The Wizard of Oz. So let's start with something incredible and eye-catching. How did Technicolor work? Because that transition from Kansas to Oz may not be what you think. Now, before we talk about how Technicolor worked, we need to understand the business model. Because Technicolor wasn't just a film process, it really was a monopoly. And there was actually one woman from Norfolk, Virginia, right here in my hometown, who controlled how every single color film in Hollywood looked for 15 years. So here's what a lot of people don't know. Well, there's a lot of things a lot of people don't know about Technicolor, but Technicolor didn't sell cameras or film stocks to studios. They rented everything. Now, those 3-strip Technicolor cameras cost $30,000 each, and they were only available for rental. Studios could not buy them. They had to rent the cameras along with specially trained camera operators. And it was everything: art directors, makeup artists, costume designers, set designers, prop designers. All of them went through a Technicolor process. And then Technicolor processed the film in their own labs. Now, when 3-color became standard for feature films in the mid-1930s, Technicolor created what they called the advisory service. This was a complete package deal sold to studios at a flat rate. It was all or nothing. Now, what this meant was color filmmaking was 3 to 4 times more expensive than black and white, raised budgets by nearly 50%. But it gave Technicolor a complete quality control over every color film made in Hollywood. Basically, they had a de facto monopoly for over 20 years. Now, let me introduce you to the woman who controlled it all, Natalie Kalmus. She was born in 1878 in Norfolk, Virginia. She studied art in Zurich, Switzerland, where she met scientist Herbert T. Kalmus. They married in 1902 and together co-founded the Technicolor Motion Picture Corporation. They divorced in 1922, but part of Natalie's divorce settlement gave her the contractual right to have her name credited as color consultant on every single Technicolor film produced from 1934 to 1949. So she actually has more credits than like any other woman of the time. She was the executive head of Technicolor's art department, and by 1939, she was earning $65,000 a year, which is about $1.5 million in today's money. She self-described her role as playing ringmaster to the rainbow. So she developed an entire theory, and she wrote a paper on it, called color consciousness. She believed that different colors emanate specific vibrations or radiations that produce predictable emotional responses in viewers. Interesting lady. So she would, like a director today, would take a script and evaluate it for story and visual. Then she would create a color chart to help define the colors to be used in the film and how they would affect viewers. Then she'd consult with the director, cinematographer, production designers, wardrobe, everyone to make sure everything made sense before the film starts. On set, she would be present or a representative from her team to make sure everything worked correctly for the best color process, including lighting and camera angles. In post-production, when the film was dyed and edited, colors were fine-tuned with additional consulting services. One of the ways that Technicolor really changed things was that color was being used as a artistic device. And in Frank Baum's book, Dorothy's slippers were silver. In the film, they were ruby red, and that was a decision made by the Technicolor team led by Natalie. This actually became a point on copyright between the movie and the book, but we'll talk about that in another video. So how did Technicolor work? So how did Technicolor work? So actually, quick question here for a second. Was The Wizard of Oz the first color movie? And actually, no. Color films existed since 1918, but The Wizard of Oz took it to a new level. So it wasn't a type of film stock. This huge camera actually was capturing 3 strips of color. And of course, like with any camera, light enters the camera through the lens. Then there was a special prism that would split the light into the cyan blue, yellow, and magenta kind of reddish color information that would reflect off the prism to send the color data to 3 strips of film. Later in the lab, those 3 strips of film were dyed with the corresponding color, cyan, magenta, or yellow, called an imbimbation process. They get combined into a final print. So that's how we end up with these incredibly saturated Technicolor colors that had not been seen by the world before. All right, take a look at this camera. It is no joke. It is enormous. It weighed 750 pounds, and you would need a crane just to move it. There was a specialized blimp box to reduce sound that required 2 operators, the regular cameraman and a Technicolor specialist that came with the rental package. Now, for complex shots with multiple cameras, they actually needed up to 9 Technicolor cameras on The Wizard of Oz, which was about 1/3 of Technicolor's entire inventory at the time. So what did this mean for production? Well, the lighting was intense. Technicolor cameras required a speed of equivalent about ASA 50, so very slow by today's standards. They needed massive arc lighting, and the temperature on set regularly exceeded 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Think about the costumes these actors were in. The Scarecrow wore a burlap and straw costume, Tin Man a metal suit, Cowardly Lion heavy fur, and everybody was under lights that made set feel like an oven. This was so much that the electricity bill was $225,000. That's the equivalent to over $5 million today. It took a while to do this. It took about 6 months to film the Technicolor sequences, and they were working long days, 6 days a week, often 4 a.m. crew calls going until past 7 p.m. In order to achieve some of the looks for Technicolor, they did things like copper-based makeup for Margaret Hamilton that was toxic. She actually could only have a liquid diet on days filming. We're going to talk about this more later, but Judy Garland was just 16 years old when this was shot. We'll get into more with her later and what this means for child labor, but think about all those concerns with the 16-year-old. Now let's talk about the moment when Dorothy opens the door and Kansas become Oz. A lot of people think they filmed in black and white, then switched to color mid-shot. Wrong. Here is the trick. The entire scene is shot in Technicolor from the very beginning. Let's take a look at the clip. So you see the interior. It's all painted actually in sepia tones. And then Dorothy's stunt double, Bobby Cochet, wore a sepia-toned dress. When she stepped out of the frame, then Judy Garland stepped in with her blue dress and enters into Oz. And the result is it looks like Dorothy herself transforms from sepia to color. Now, MGM's original plan was to hand paint every frame, but time and money led to the cheaper idea of painting the physical set and using Judy's stunt double. So other than this just being technically cool, they used color for storytelling. It's not just pretty, it's a symbolic transition. They go from sepia, which equated ordinary reality, to color with wonder, danger, and possibility. Could have been a simple cut, but they did something that reinforced the story's themes, because as filmmakers, we should not just do shots because they're cool, but because they fit with the story and are a better cinematic story. So let's take a look at a few of the specifics in Oz. Instead of just using color to look pretty, it was used to tell the story. You notice Kansas was not just black and white. It was a sepia tone printed with platinum process. So it was warmer, softer, and iridescent quality to the highlights. And while it's beautiful, it's lifeless. And symbolically, warm memories, nostalgia, but empty. Then Oz, right? The iconic yellow brick road. Yellow equates to warmth, optimism, the journey ahead, sunshine, and hope. And where does it lead? The Emerald City. Now, in Baum's book, the city's actually white. Everyone wears green tinted glasses that make everything look emerald. The emerald is an illusion, just like the wizard himself. The film changes this a little bit and uses other illusions instead of the goggles. Let's look at character design through color. Glinda, pink, soft pastels, bubbles, sparkles. The color psychology for that is innocence, goodness, gentleness. And next week in Wicked, of course, we're going to ask a lot about how that color psychology flips. And the Wicked Witch doesn't even get a name in the book or the 1939 movie, but her green skin and the green Emerald City and her black clothes. This color psychology points toward envy, decay, danger, something unnatural, especially with that copper green. Now, this was added in the movie, and it'll be an important detail later. The witch was not green in Baum's book. So over the next few weeks, we're going to take a look more at The Wizard of Oz and Wicked and the new Wicked for Good. Next time, we're going to talk about Baum's business flops, and then more on Judy Garland and more on how we as Christians should engage or shouldn't engage with these films. Then we're going to do everything Wicked in week 2 and how to process it as a Christian and what to expect in Wicked for Good. Then Wicked for Good releases November 21st, and we will start analyzing. So, do the things, subscribe so you don't miss videos, and we'll see you next time when we talk about how the creator of Oz went bankrupt trying to film his own masterpiece.